Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Kim.
In this video, we're going to be showing you how to do math at home for kinder through second grade. Now, math is pretty big, so this includes a math meeting, math facts, and math worksheets that get sent home by the teacher. So the first thing we need to know is what supplies do we need to be able to do math at home, particularly the math meeting.
Yes, so at home, you will need a copy of the teacher manual.
Okay.
Your teacher will have it, but you also need it at home. It's a scripted program, and so this tells you everything you need to know for the entire year.
So we don't need to know math. We just need to be able to read.
That's right. That's right. It will walk you through it step by step. And then on top of that, you should also have a math meeting book and a few math manipulatives will be very helpful. For example, an amount of coins. Some parents use real coins. Some use plastic coins they buy at Lakeshore or Walmart or anywhere. A clock of some kind. Your kindergartners, they'll bring one of these home. You don't need to make one, but they'll start with just identifying the difference between night and morning. And then you can use, teachers call these a Judy clock, but you can just have a practice clock that they can manipulate. The back of your math meeting book has a 100 chart, but if you want one for easy access, you can easily make one for yourself. And then over the year, your student will be bringing home math facts flashcards that come with your program that you've turned into your teacher. And so some way to store those in whatever organizational form works for you.
This works for us. We always just throw them in a bin.
That's right.
Keep them all.
I think I had an index card box that we would just keep them in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now, and for the purposes of this video, for example, we're using the first grade. So it has a 2, but this is the first grade math curriculum at GDA. And so this is what we're using for this example, first grade. And all of these items that you see for like your math meeting kit, armor bearers will actually provide. If you are a new family, if you are new to Gloria Deo, we will provide you with a little pencil bag that has some supplies with hopefully money coins and a little clock, all of these things that you kind of need for the math meeting, and it helps to have it all together in one place. So just know that you don't have to go out and get all of these things. Your armor bearer will have something similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know our parents really appreciate that. So thank you all for doing that. So also coming home from your teacher each week in whatever format that the teacher communicates, they'll be doing it. You'll be coming home with a math meeting strip. And this is what the first grade math meeting strip looks like.
Okay.
The kindergarten is long and narrow because they're not doing as many skills. And the second grade one is just a little bit further developed.
So what do we use the math meeting strip for? So when we open the book, one of the first things it's going to say is the meaning. Yes. And we're going to follow what it says to say, because it tells exactly what questions to ask our kids and how to say, what do you think today's date is? What day of the week is it today? How do you know? And you're going through things like your calendar, which is in your math meeting book. So you're going to have a lot of table space because you've got your book, you've got the calendar, and your math meeting strip. So this is what they're filling out.
Yes, this is what your student is filling out so that teachers know it's being done at home, and also just to practice those skills of writing this kind of information. They learn how to write a dollar sign at the front of all their money, or to use decimals in between dollars and cents. They learn how to write digital time on a clock. So a lot of skills are being learned in their math meetings.
Okay. And in addition to those out of the skills, there's counting strips at the back, and the teachers will build this out with them in class. But be sure that you're following that math meeting, doing the counting, because this is where they're going to count by even numbers, count by odd numbers, count by 5s, count by 7s. And it also goes a long way in developing number sense and preparing those kinder first and second graders for multiplication later on down the road for the math multiplication math.
Absolutely. And I think it's fair to say that nearly 40% of your students' math lessons will actually come out of the math meeting.
Math meeting.
And so while math meeting is done every day at school, it also needs to be done every day at home because Saxon is a spiraling curriculum. And so they will introduce topics, they will practice topics, and they will just keep honing in on these skills and wrapping that spiral tighter and tighter so that they learn these skills that they will then apply as they come to new concepts, as they get older, as they develop their math skills.
So don't skip the math meeting.
Do not skip the math meeting.
Always do the math meeting. It is very important.
It absolutely is. Now, I know Robin mentioned that it's scripted, and it is very scripted. If you go to the first 10 or lessons or so, it is going to tell you under calendar, yesterday was the blank of the month, point to the date. Like it's going to walk you through every single step. But as you move through, definitely by about lesson 20, it's going to just be saying things like, ask your child to write the date on the calendar strip. And what it's wanting you to do is use those same questions that it's been practicing over and over, but you may have to flip back if you're not comfortable with that yet. So they still continue, but it starts to kind of summarize after you've done it about 20 times.
Okay.
So
yeah. And you memorize it as well too. You kind of
Absolutely.
go through the routine with your kid as long as you're doing it every day.
yes.
You and your student will have that routine built in. So first thing at home with math is start with your math meeting. Then we usually in our home we collect all of our math meeting supplies, we put them away, and I use a transition time. I give them their math facts page.
Okay.
I say now practice your math facts, and then that gives me time to kind of clean all this up and move it aside and get it out of the way. So
And just like Robin
Math.
mentioned, there's going to be two kinds of worksheets that your teacher's going to send home. There's the one that's going to be just math facts. And depending on the age of your child, this one is a multiplication one I have in front of me. That's it will start with addition, then it will practice missing numbers, 3 plus what equals 10. All kinds of math skills are practiced with these fact sheets. And so they're very important.
now I've had some teachers not require the math facts, but I would still say do the math facts.
Well, I think there's a slightly different concept behind not require and not grade.
Okay.
So
there you go.
most teachers won't collect these. They won't put them in the grade book. They won't.
But some form of math facts practice needs to be happening.
That's right. And
Whether
then we list it in your lesson plans that
Whether
they
it's-
need to be doing it. And
Yes.
you need to be doing both.
Yeah.
Because different skills are being learned during both of these
Right.
situations. And like I said, sometimes it's a missing number, but these don't have any missing numbers, right?
Right.
Like this is 10 minus 4 equals 6, not 10 minus what equals 6, right? And so it's going to approach math differently in both situations. And so there's different ways to do these worksheets. And because teachers don't grade it, you have a little bit of latitude to know how your student learns best. Some parents will give them some grade levels is 1 minute. So kinder, first, second is 1 minute. As they get older, it comes to 5 minutes as they get to 100 multiplication facts and those kinds of things. Some parents will time them, and whatever they get done, they have a score sheet that comes with the program that your teacher will send home at the beginning.
But timing your student is not required.
It is absolutely not required and actually works very poorly for my son. So what I did with my son is I timed up. So he would start and I would time him up and he would race himself from his previous. Last time it took him 3.5 minutes. This time
So that will motivate him to do it.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that was kind of motivation, one, to get it done so we can move on with our morning, and two, that he could race himself without feeling like he wasn't finished.
Now, math can be a struggle subject, particularly math facts.
Yes.
And so I have one child who, if that child was not given a timer, they would sit there for 45 minutes. And I'd be like,
Yes.
why? You know these. And another child, if I put a timer on that student, they almost would panic and could not move forward. And so to always approach your student with what they need, with what's going to be helpful and motivating to them. It's not supposed to be a gotcha. It's not
Correct.
supposed to be overwhelmingly hard. And if my student is struggling to do maybe this page when I'm transitioning or working with another student, that is my sign as a mom, as a co-teacher, that I need to go back and do some of these with him. We need to do practice in some other form that's together before he's just expected to do them independently.
Absolutely. And our kindergartners and our first graders and even some of our second graders, that should be expected. There's no expectation that you set your kindergartner down on the first day of school and they should be able to successfully finish that fact sheet on their own. In fact, the program doesn't even start facts practice with our kindergartners on days one.
So the vision is that this is all side by side. The teacher
correct.
and student at home. This should be, kinder through second grade should absolutely be side by side with math. Should a student ever be like left alone to do any of their math by themselves?
So I think left alone is kind of an open-ended phrase.
Okay.
It's kind of deceptive. I think there is time and there's development of the child where you will learn where they can be independent, but it's more in isolation than in whole.
Okay.
Really, by the end of second grade, your student might be almost able to finish their worksheet on their own, but there should still be a time of side by side in which you are, some of them are weaker readers, and so they will always need that first question read to them.
The word problem.
Because it's the word problem. There will be times when two-digit subtraction is stressful for them, so just sitting with them and just kind of walking them through the steps. And if that is still happening at the end of second grade, that is completely normal and it's what we want.
Okay.
So
Now, how do we do? So we've done the math meeting. We've done our math facts. Now we're asked
one more
to
thing
do.
to say, I just wanted to say it out loud. I think you kind of hinted at it, but I just want to make it clear. Another option is to not time. Like you can just put it in front of them. You can time up, you can time down, you can just put it in front of them, whichever works best.
So the last thing in our home days
Yes.
would be the math worksheets.
That's correct. And so each math worksheet is a two-sided worksheet. It's side A and side B. And side A should 98% of the time be completely finished at school with the teacher. And there will be days when it comes home with like one problem undone, but it should not be chronic. It should not be continuous. Side A should be done at school.
Okay.
And then on the back, side B is their turn to practice it away from the teacher, but with their co-teacher. And so you will sit with them in kindergarten, you will sit with them the entire time. And you will read the instructions and you will guide them and you will work it through. By the end of second grade, there should be things that they are doing independently, but still with guidance. Just want to be very careful when I say independently. It should
And some of this depends on the student.
That's correct.
Right. So we want, until that student can kind of show that they can fly the nest a little bit and are academically successful with their math, then we do need to be side by side with them.
That's right. And I know this is a kinder through 2 video, but there is an expectation that even through 4th, 5th, and 6th grade that we are still invested in the math time with our students because it is so important for this foundation to be laid early and well.
Absolutely.
To prepare them for middle school and high school.
Now, how should co-teachers grade this worksheet?
So kinder through 2 is a little bit of a gray area in math grading.
Okay.
Especially kindergarten. Because I just said, I'm going to sit with the student the whole time and fill this out with them, right? And I'm reading it to them and they're answering back. And so it's this kind of gray area. Do I mark it wrong because I did it with them? Do I mark it
Because they asked a question about it?
Right. And so this may be one of the harder things that you'll find to grade, and that's okay. What we want is kind of an honest assessment of, does your student know this concept, right?
Okay.
We want to give grace for our co-teachers to be able to teach and to reward their students for learning with
To
them.
assess where they're at.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to walk through the step-by-step instructions, but to know that there is grace in that.
Is good for all.
Yes. And if you're curious and you're wondering, ask your teacher because they are going to know where your student needs to be that week.
Yes.
At that time.
Okay.
So the steps for grading is on side A and B. And A is just because your teacher has a classroom full of students and maybe they missed something, but just kind of, you just grade
Look over it.
Look it over, make sure they've got the right answers. A and B, grade it over, but you're only putting a grade on side B.
Okay.
So you'll go through and, for example, on this one, let's say they did not write a correct fact family. So you're just going to put an X on number 3. And then you'll go up to the top, say -1.
Now, does the student need to correct it?
So after I've written -1, I am going to go back to my student. And this can be done immediately. It can be done after
Later in the day.
read, whatever works best for your student's personality. But they do need to correct. Now, correcting, what I like to do is let my child correct it first.
See if they can correct it by themselves first.
Because sometimes they meant 4 and wrote 2.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that was silly. Why did I do that? And they fix it.
But if it was a true misunderstanding academically,
That's
then
right.
walk them through that.
That's correct. That's the time that we, as the co-teacher, get to come back and say, okay, maybe you're not understanding what a fact family is. So let's just talk about that. And there is a table of content in your lesson, in your manual, and you'll find where they learned fact families, and you'll go and you'll just kind of walk through. And again, it's scripted, so you don't have to know what a fact family is to be able to walk your student through.
But
it
if you
again.
need to review, you can.
That's
So
right.
the student will correct.
So they correct it, and then you up in the corner, right next to the -1, will write the word corrected.
Yes, the whole word corrected.
The whole word.
And then initial. I've been trained by teachers. That's the initial. So my initials, not my students, but
Yes, and then you initial or sign your whole name, whatever you
Yeah.
choose to do, but you
It needs
have
to be
to
signed.
acknowledge that is your moment of telling the teacher, like from co-teacher to teacher, that I have reviewed this paper with my student and my student is responsible for this knowledge. If they know
Okay.
it or we're working on it. And sometimes if I'm seeing this concept where my student is struggling time and again, I've been able to put a little note there, and then I just kind of check up with my teacher, like, how can I help my student
with this concept.
with fact families? Like, we're just not getting it, and so that kind of thing. And so this is a great communication tool for you and for you and the teacher.
Yeah.
But once that's done, then it's put back in their red folder, their Ready Every Day binder.
Yep.
And it goes back to school, and the teacher will grade the paper based on your notes at the top. So the mathematical formula we use is if it's 1 wrong out of 6, then it's I don't want to do math. Anyway, so it's
The
whatever
teacher has
percentage.
to-
That's right. They have
And
the
it's a
answer.
fair and nothing
That's right.
grace.
But by
Mhm.
putting that word corrected, you actually get half the points back.
Okay. If they've corrected their work,
That's
they
right.
get half some credit back. Is basically.
Yes. So
Yeah.
So what will go in the grade book is 25% back.
Okay.
So if it's -1 out of 6, whatever that is, and then you've corrected it, you get another 25% of that missing number back.
Back. Okay.
So
So they do earn something for going back and correcting their
That's right.
misunderstanding.
that's right.
It's worth it. Yeah.
We want our grades to show mastery. That's what grades are. They're a communication tool to tell you and the student and the teacher where that child is on that day and in that
Yep.
moment. And grades are not what we're seeking, but it is a way to honor that they've continued to work hard to learn it.
Now, if you have you have kinder through second, which you will if you're watching this, but I've always used side A as review. So even though they did it in class, I will still review it with my student, making sure they understand these concepts before they then approach side B. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I always use side A as a review first. I think this.
One more thing I
Pretty
want
much,
to point out is that every day on your lesson plans, it's going to say review lessons 7 and 8, if that's what they did at school the day before.
Okay.
And so what I want to kind of do is define on what that means.
Okay.
So-
So should we review?
Yes, what does review lessons 7 and 8 mean? Does that mean I have to sit down and open to the
whole
lesson? It might. If lesson
the student
7
needs
is creating and reading a repeating pattern, and my student is showing that they don't understand what a repeating pattern is, then yes, I am going to reteach this whole lesson.
Okay.
But if I'm seeing on their worksheet where they're practicing it and they are getting it, I might not. I might not engage on it. I might stroll through it and ask them one question out of it.
And just make sure they
Just kind of a
quick
spot check.
checkpoint.
That's right. And so
So this is where there is room for you as the co-teacher to decide what your student does or does not need. And so it's important to have that side-by-side time. Be engaged and involved with them during math so that you always know where their math understanding is, and you can supplement, add more, or pull back as you see best fit.
just a One
Final
more
thought?
statement is that every lesson plan has a projected time of how long a teacher thinks an average student would take.
Okay.
And you know whether your student is great at math or math is not where their strength lies, or all these things. And so if you are consistently going far past that projected time,
Okay.
we want to hear from you. We want, and your teacher wants to hear
Yes.
from you. And we
So if you're
want
having
to,
a miserable 3 hours
yes,
on home days in math, like talk to your teacher.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Math should be your largest chunk of the day. It absolutely should. But
It's
if it is excessive and
We
it's
need to-
becoming a stumbling block,
we want to help.
we want to hear early. We'd rather hear it's a problem before it's a problem.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be February and you're just now coming to us. So come to us in September, October. Let us know.
Sometimes it's just a matter of trial and error, trying a
That's
couple
right.
different methods and perspectives, and
Yeah.
and yeah.
So that we can definitely work.
If you have any more questions about K through 2nd math, please reach out to your teacher, and that's all we have for this video. Thank you for watching.